What's up, guys? We got a Q&A today. It's all about the knee today. We have a question regarding jumper's knee, another one about jumping mechanics, and another one is a very common one is Osgood slaughters and growth. So stay tuned. My name is Dr. Marco Lopez.
My name is Dr. Gabe Ignacio. We're both doctors of physical therapy and co-founders of Bachelor's Wall Doctors. And exactly what Marco mentioned, this one's going to be more about the knee. Took kind of like the most common questions and kind of picked ones from different diagnoses and ones that can stir conversations pretty much. And you'll get our 2 cents on these questions and topics. And like we mentioned before, if you have any questions before we even start the Q&A, please leave them down below. We'll try and grab the most common themes and questions and answer for our next Q&A. And if you have any questions while we're talking about these topics, feel free to leave them below and we'll answer them as soon as we can. And we'll just get into it now. So the first question is by Joshua Alvarez 4436. And he asks, can you do these exercises while hurt? And it's referring to pretty much like a split squat isometric for jumper's knee or patellar tendinopathy.
Yeah, great question. So when it comes to jumper's knee, so that's kind of like one of the only conditions besides any other tendinopathy issues that it's okay to kind of push through a little bit of pain, because it is going to be painful. It's going to be a painful journey, especially during season. There's going to be a lot of maintenance and symptoms, trying to decrease as much as we can the symptoms, but this is one that we're gonna have to kind of push through a little bit of pain. If it's something else like patellofemoral pain syndrome, pain around the kneecap, no. But jumper's knee, more tendon pain, more below your kneecap, then I'm okay pushing through a little bit of pain. But that pain has to be, we're gonna kind of go into discussion of the pain there, but it has to be in the same level as that you've been dealing with. So I don't want you, let's say your normal pain level is a 2. You do the split squat, it goes up to a 7. It's a sharp pain, no, then you're not supposed to be in pain doing that. But if your pain's like a 2 or a 3, it's not pain-free, I'm okay. That's in the normal range that I'm okay to work with. If it's more than a 3, 4, 5, way more than your normal pain level, then that's something to be concerned with. Okay, maybe we have to do a different exercise. And that's why the proper progressions are needed for jumper's knee. That's why I click the link in our description. We have a great jumper's knee rehab program that will teach you the progressions on how to do them and how to correctly do them and why it should be at a certain pain level. But you got to differentiate good pain and bad pain. And the bad pain's at 7, 8, sharp pain, and you're gonna have that normal good pain that I call with the normal exercises there. What do you think, Gabe?
Yeah, I think if you have true tendinopathy, which sometimes you might not have it, like a lot of times we talk about this in other videos, is that jumper's knee or tendinopathy can replicate other pains. Marco mentioned PFPS or patellofemoral pain is just one example where the pain is very similar and around the same area, that if you do jumper's knee rehab for that, for the PFPS, you're actually going to cause more issues. So if you have true tendinopathy or jumper's knee, then yes, these isometrics will be really beneficial for you. And Marco nailed it right on the head with you're gonna have to deal with some discomfort, and that's where Marco was saying, like, learning what good pain is versus bad pain. Good pain, like most of the time we have good intuition. If you're old enough and knowledgeable enough about your body, like, oh, like this pain is like this just feels like something's working. That's something you could push through, versus like if your body's telling you and you're thinking like this doesn't feel quite right, you should probably listen to yourself and be like, no, this isn't smart. And again, Marco mentioned it, there's so many exercises that you can do and so many different variations that you can do to get you to the point that you can do this exercise with that good quote unquote pain. And that's exactly what our program does, is get you to that point. But Marco, I think you forgot to mention the benefits of isometric. So like, what's the science behind it?
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I totally blanked out. But the whole point of the isometric is it provides this analgesic effect where it helps decrease tendon pain. So if it's true tendon pain, it gives you that little period, a window that it's pain-free. So normally an isometric, we forgot to mention that, should be pain-free. And the whole goal is for it to be pain-free. You're like, oh, I could do this. It doesn't hurt because I'm not moving, and it sends cortical signals, feels good on the muscle. You feel the muscle working. So if it's painful, then like Gabe said, maybe you're dealing with patellofemoral pain syndrome. or something else, but it should be relatively pain-free.
Yeah, or you're doing an exercise that you're not ready for.
Yeah, exactly.
So kind of we mentioned there's a wide range of things you can do, but first thing is making sure you actually have true tendinopathy, and then next is looking at the exercise prescription.
100%. All right, let's go to the next one. But like I said, guys, check out our Jumpers Knee Rehab program. Great progressions. And my tip, Joshua, maybe you go open chain, knee extension hold before you do the lunge. But next one is a little Osgood Schlatters one. So Tristan V1, hey, I'm 15 with Osgood Schlatters. Does this mean I'm potentially going to have a growth spurt, or am I done growing? Great question. What do you think?
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, the hallmark sign of Osgood Schlatter disease is getting that painful bump during your growth years, or like your teenage years typically. And it is a great question, because that's a question that we get quite a bit from our young athletes. They're like, does this mean I'm growing? Like, does this mean I'm about to grow more? Because like at that age, height is such a big thing, and like where you're at with your life. But to get to this question is, when you're dealing with Osgood Schlatter disease, it's usually during a time of growth. So when you're at that age, your bones are still very immature and they're still growing and developing, and it's not as strong, so that during that time your bone is growing and your tendons and muscles are still like, they haven't expanded and gained that flexibility. So pretty much you're lengthening your tendons and muscles when they're not ready to, but your bones are growing. So your tendons and muscles need to grow and adapt to that while your bones are growing. And that's what happens is when you get that tension in that tibial tuberosity, or where you get that painful bump, and you add stress of like working out, playing sports, you add more stress to that tendon and bone growth area, that you start to develop that irritation and that bone growth, which causes that bump. So typically, to answer this question, is you're at the stage of growing already. So you're usually towards the tail end or right in the middle of your growth spurt, not starting up your growth spurt.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Another thing too is, hate to break it, but like Gabe said, maybe towards the end. Also, you might be just playing too many sports, and you might have too much of a quad contraction pulling on your Osgood Schlatters. So that might be causing a flare-up, because guys, remember, like Gabe said, it's like that pulling on the tibial tubercle there. If we do a lot of sports that involve a lot of quad activities, such as basketball, a lot of jumping, so you could not be having a growth spurt, and you just might have irritated your Osgood Schlatters that you've already had in the past.
Also very true.
Yeah.
And it's such a thing now in adolescence, where people become too specialized with sport. So, I mean, when we were playing basketball back in our youth days, we'd had seasons, like play basketball during high school, and then break, and then play some summer ball, break, and then back into high school. And during that time, you play other sports.
Yep.
I played golf, I played other sports, and then you get different loads and different like movements that isn't all basketball. Basketball is very knee dominant, a lot of running and jumping, and now high school athletes and younger, they're playing basketball pretty much all year round. Their break is like 1 week or something like that, you know, and they play tournaments on weekends where they play like 6 or 7 games, which is crazy. So like Marco mentioned, it could just be a flare up of something that you had already, and it just kind of brought it on even more.
Yeah. So hopefully you're still growing.
Yeah. Final question here is from Sayden LA Mutt 908, and he asked, I can't jump with one leg. Why do you think that is?
Damn, that's actually kind of a good question and an interesting one. I think my question first would be, is there pain in his leg that's limiting his ability to jump with one leg? Can he like not physically do it? Because I know there's people that could jump higher with one leg versus with 2 legs. So like the springy jumper versus the power jumper. But there's a lot of things that I'm thinking in my head. Is it painful? Or can he do it, but you just can't do it well enough? You know, is he having trouble with stability that he won't go on one leg? There's a lot of testing that I would have to do to see like, hey, why can't you do it? I want to find out if there's pain or anything, and then kind of see where he's at, do some testing. But what do you think, Gabe? If it's not painful, let's say if it's not painful and you're like, all right, you're just not good at it. What do you
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming he's probably a younger athlete, and we're going to make some assumptions here just to kind of give you guys a framework of where our minds are at. So we're going to, 1, assume that there's no pain, and 2, he's a younger athlete that can't jump on one leg. So my initial thoughts would be, it's likely a stability issue or like a motor planning or motor coordination issue. So first we try and figure out, is there a stability issue? So like looking at like single leg balance, single leg stability with landing before you even jump. If that looks fine, then okay, it might be like a sequencing or more motor coordination issue. So let's just see how he does with like double leg jumping. Like obviously he specifically said one leg, so like let's see how he goes off with 2 legs. And then if that looks good, then we'll do like some type of staggered jump, whether it be like a split squat jump or like a step into a jump type of thing, where we kind of bias one leg and figure out where the discrepancy are there. And then from there you can go into progressions of single leg, of like starting with low amplitude plyometrics. You could use like a band or something to give him an assisted jump, see if he's able to do it that way. So there's a lot of different things that we can do to tease out where the issue is. But yeah, that would be where I would start.
Yeah, I mean, and once you get that, tease it out. I mean, if you want to get better at something, you got to practice. Maybe you start off, I mean, like Gabe said, the staggered, the single leg, and just work on a lot of single leg. But you can turn yourself into a 1-foot jumper. And especially if you're a basketball player, you kind of have to be a 1-foot jumper in order to go for a layup, you know, unless you're doing power layups all the time. But you're going to have to jump with one leg, and training the single leg hopping, single leg bounding, all these single leg exercises. So you can become a better 1-foot jumper. It's just you got to train for that, like Gabe mentioned.
Yeah, and I think it just might be one where he feels like he's not as explosive in comparison to the other side, where he can't jump off one leg. Just a story about myself. I used to be the same. Well, not used to be. I used to jump off one leg way better. And then when you got to high school, learned how to play off 2 feet more just because it was more stable. And then I had a really bad ankle sprain on my left ankle, and I'm right-handed. I finished better going to my left, but when I was growing up, because everyone would force me left. But it got to a point when I sprained my ankle that like I'm not painful jumping off my leg, but my stability isn't there. So I actually feel more explosive jumping off my right or 2 legs versus just jumping off my left. So that's what we're talking about. If there's pain, that's probably the most important thing that we need to address. And then the stability issue of not being able to create stable platform to jump off of, type of thing.
And once you have those, then just go ahead and start practicing.
Practicing. Gotta practice to learn how to jump.
Exactly. Awesome, guys. Well, hopefully you guys liked this video. It was all about the knee, and those are like the most common questions we get asked. We're gonna try to diversify, but these are all questions you guys asked that we try to answer. So if you guys have any questions, comment below, hit the subscribe button, and share this video with friends and family. And if you guys need help with your rehab, with your knee rehab, we have great Schlatter's rehab programs. Click the link in our description. We have great jumpers knee rehab program, you name it. And if you need help in person, we're here in Southern California, and we also work with people online. But yeah, that's a bit for us.
Yeah, and last little thing, we keep getting questions on ACL and knees. So like all our Q&A has been on this. So if you want different questions answered or different topics, ask them down below. So yeah, if you want us to cover different topics, just ask us in any of our platforms. We pull it all from YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, emails. So feel free to reach us in any way. And like always, we are the basketball doctors.